This is the video presentation for assignment 1 from Group 10 in CSE535. I'm Simon and I will do the application demo on a Nexus 5 simulator. After starting the application, the user is prompted to enter the patient ID, which is a number field and is locked to only numbers. The age field is also only locked to numbers, whereas the name field is a normal usual text field. The gender can be selected with these radio buttons here on the right. By pressing the View Graph view, we switch to another view, which is showing the ECG curve of that patient, which is automatically started, as we can see in that view over here. The Start button can only press once, whereas the Stop button can also only be pressed once. Hitting these buttons multiple times will not have an effect on the visualization. Pressing the Stop button multiple times will also not restart the graph, but just continue the current graph. A feature here is that the x-axis has the time label, which is constantly updating based on how far the graph is moving. So the further we move in time with this graph, the greater these values will be down here. If we stop the graph, these values are reset. To the right, the 0 is the 0 and minus 4 seconds to the left. When starting the graph, these values will slowly updating. Here on the top right, we can see the information of the patient. And if we want to take another patient, we can just go back to the previous view, which still has these patient information. For example, change his patient number and go back to the graph view, which automatically takes the new values and starts a new graph. Okay, let's have a closer look at the graph view class. We made a few changes to accommodate to the style that you could see in the application demo. The most important change is to the constructor that now also takes the labels for the x and y axis. Down here we have a new variable that is used to hold the float values of the x labels. This is used to being able to update these labels as the graph is moving. The reset function was introduced over here to make sure that we can actually reset the graph. So this function just does what the name already implies. It resets the graph and resets also the labels on the x-axis. We made a couple of changes to the onDraw methods also. That is basically just some design changes as well as drawing the two labels as seen on the x and y axis. Another function that we introduced is the update label function. It is used to update the labels as soon as a new data point needs to be rendered. The getMax and getMin function is now returning a static value to accommodate the fixed scale from 0 to 1.
Hi, my name is Bijan Fakhri, and I'm here to talk about the graph activity. The graph activity gets the patient info from the intent, and the intent is bundled up and then taken apart right here. We get the ID, the name, and the age, and then we put it in the app. It shows up right here. We also, in this file, set up the buttons, the Start button and the Stop button. We set up their color and the text that goes in them, and then we add them to the view. And as you can see, the buttons are right here. The horizontal labels and the vertical labels for the graph are also defined in this file. And as you can see, those are the initial values, but they move once the graph starts moving. And that is the graph activity file. Thank you.
My name is Chirav Dave, and I would be explaining about the updation of data points in the graph. So for that, I'm using a handler object, and I'm passing a thread, which is the runnable, and I'm passing the time after which it should be called. That is 1/3 of the second. This is where I have declared my runnable object. So within this run method, I have this mstop, a boolean variable, which is to distinguish between the start button and the stop. So if the stop button is clicked, then this updation of number should not work. So the mstop value will be true, and the function would simply return without doing anything. And once the user clicks the start button, then the mstop value is false, so it never goes into this. And then it executes this for loop. In the for loop, I'm shifting all the values by one location towards the left, so that the values appear as a continuous for the graph. And then I'm updating the value of the last the index value, right? And then I'm setting those new values, and then I'm removing the previous old value so that the new data points could appear. this is how my code works.
Hi, this is Mao-Lin. Now I'm going to introduce my work in this assignment. Since we have two activities, once patient input their data, we have to transfer this data from patient activity to graph activity. Here I use bundle object to achieve this data transfer. Once user press View Graph button, we first create a bundle object and then store the data we need in the key value pair structure, such as ID, name, age, and gender. We then create a intent object to specify the target activity that we want to go, and put our bundle object to this intent object by put extra function. To show patient's data, we fetch the bundle object by getExtras function. Then we can get the value for each key and then append them in a string builder object to show them in the text view. This is the demo for data transfer in this assignment. Thanks.